Okay, we're very glad we have everybody here. I know it's a challenge to do things differently sometimes. Welcome to everyone to the Residences at Vantage Point's inaugural Compass webinar series. Welcome to those who are just joining us. We're just getting started, making sure everyone's computers and connections are working well. You are all part of a very special group, and I applaud your pioneer spirits for joining us for our very first ever webinar. As you know, sometimes when we do something for the very first time, it doesn't always go as smoothly as we'd hope, but we do hope we get through this together. We're all going to be learning this new format together, so we appreciate your patience and understanding as we go through this, and we hope to improve upon it for the future. You know, we're all trying to adapt in these times, and we're all embracing new ways of communicating. So if there is a bright spot in today's situation, is that we're all learning new things. It's always good to keep learning. Again, my name is Patty Hutton. I'm the Director of Marketing. I just want to have a couple of housekeeping items. First, is everyone able to see the screen with the slide that says, "Is a life plan community right for you? Get the right information for a smart future."
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Just so that we limit some of the background noise during the presentation, if while you don't have a question, if it's possible for you to mute your phones, that way you can listen and we won't hear any background noise that may happen, you know, coffee makers beeping, other noises in the background. So if you wish to ask a question, just unmute yourself, and we can have questions throughout. You have visual but no sound, and you don't have microphone. You can always use the dial-in phone number. It seems as though everyone has had that capability. And I just want to acknowledge that due to the work from home and telework that so many people are doing, we've noticed that with this platform, the Join.me platform, as well as general internet, has been running a little bit slower than usual due to the amount of bandwidth being used. That means that there may be some delays in loading some of the slides. We'll keep our fingers crossed that we don't have any trouble, but just ask you to please be patient as we're experiencing some of these issues and working through them. But I'd again like to start by thanking each of you for joining our webinar and congratulate you for seeking out information to educate yourselves on retirement living options. We hope what you gain from attending this webinar series is a better understanding of the options available to you so that you can make the best plan for yourselves and for your loved ones. There's a quote from Yogi Berra, the former New York Yankees catcher, that seems particularly appropriate as we embark on this series. And if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up someplace else. So I think what we're here to do and what we're trying to accomplish with this seminar series is to help you find the direction that you want to go for yourself so that you don't end up in a place that you did not intend. And so what I'd like to do is introduce our celebrity guest presenter for today, Sharon Jessup. She is the Vice President and Senior Director of Marketing and Sales at Life Care Services, and they are the management company that manages Residences at Vantage Point. She's worked in senior living for more than 20 years, so she has seen a lot of changes within this industry, and has been with Life Care Services 9 years. She lives in Washington, D.C., so she is in our part of the country, and is a devoted mother to two mischievous cats, Abby and Finn. And her superpowers include competing in a full Ironman competition, as well as multiple shorter triathlons, because keeping fit and healthy keeps her grounded. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over presenters to Sharon.
Thank you, Patty. Hopefully that worked.
Hopefully everyone is seeing a new slide. Is a life plan right for you?
Yes.
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 Okay. Well, I want to echo Patty's.
11 people. Wonderful.
Yay. I echo Patty's thoughts, and you all are pioneers with us at Vantage Point and doing the Compas series via webinar. And I will have to admit, although I have participated in many webinars, this is only the second time I've led one. So hang in there. I think we've been practicing enough that we can make it through, but hang in there. As Patty said, it's been interesting trying to use the internet in times when everybody's telemuting and teleworking. And Patty, thank you for that introduction. I don't know that I consider myself that much of a celebrity, but I have been around the block a few times. and I am here to share with you some thoughts about life plan communities, of which Vantage Point is one, why you might want to consider one, and then we'll talk some specifics about Vantage Point. You can certainly ask a question if something comes up. As Patty said, keep yourself on mute, but if you want to ask a question, please go ahead and do so. Let's kind of make this as much of a conversation as possible. You can also use the chat function, which is a little bubble probably at the top of your screen. Patty's going to be our moderator, and so if there are questions that come through on the chat session, she will make sure that those get answered. So again, thank you. It's a little different because we're used to when someone comes and wants to learn about Vantage Point, we are at least offering you a coffee or a glass of water or a cookie or something. So hopefully you have a refreshment. But so hopefully you've been able to get yourself your own hospitality, and hopefully this will be a good hour in your day as we're probably all in our home. As Patty said, I am talking to you from Washington, D.C., where we can't even go see the cherry blossoms other than on the television. So these are strange times. So the overview of what I want to review today is why now? Think about senior living. I'm going to tell you about a study called Age Well. I'm going to talk about different community types, like Patty mentioned, and then we'll talk some specifics about Vantage Point. So the question, why now? I think any time is a good time to consider a community like Vantage Point, but these are unprecedented times. The really, really cool thing is life goes on for our residents different. I also should mention, I'll add this to my own introduction. So my perspective on senior living communities is certainly as a professional for over 20 years in this industry. But last February, I became the daughter of two people who live in a life plan community. And never in a million years did we think that there in the South, I thought hurricanes were going to be what we dealt with. Certainly not pandemics, but I am completely in awe of what is taking place and how they are being provided for and services and everything else. So the peace of mind that I experience as a family member is beyond measure, because I just have to say that the health and safety and well-being of our residents, employees, and families are always at the highest priority in our communities. We're keeping everybody informed. There are daily updates. And so this is certainly not a discussion about COVID-19, which is a nice thing because that seems to be the only thing that we talk about these days. But I do need to mention it because it kind of is everywhere. And it certainly has had an impact on everybody's life on the phone here, I'm sure. So enough about that. So let's talk about Age Well. Age Well is a 5-year study. We are actually technically in year 3. And this study, it was sponsored by, or is sponsored by, the Mather Institute, Northwestern Life, Life Care Services, which is the company that I work for and the company that manages the residences at Vantage Point. And the question is, are people more well if they live in a life plan community? Now, I'm sure Patty and I think Katie's on the phone and others, we all would say, well, of course they are. I get to see what life is like every day and what our residents are participating in and what they're doing. But now we have a study, and the results were so significant that after the first year, they began to publish annual updates. So what we found, and this is kind of nice because we've been saying this, but now there's some pretty significant research to say that compared to community at large adults, life plan community participants tend to have greater emotional, social, physical, intellectual, and vocational wellness, but lower spiritual wellness. And I can explain that one. That doesn't make me worry. So let's walk through this a little bit, because I believe in all my 20 years, this is a game changer. People have said, I don't need to move to a community, but wouldn't you want to move to a place that offers you all these things? Let's dive into the different parameters that they measured. There have been so many reports, from news programs, newspapers, articles, any of the trade publications that we all read, that social isolation, this is so hard for me to say, social isolation is a key predictor of mortality. In some ways, people are talking about social isolation as being the new obesity, because we are social creatures. And what happens, especially in a time like this, we become isolated. We're now, this is unprecedented times, as I said, but even, we live in the Northeast, even when there's bad weather. Are there days that go by in which your only contact is via telephone with someone? Or the only interaction is you're talking back to the television. So social wellness is really, I think, one of the keys in this Age Well study, because it has set our residents, people who live in a community, I don't know how you could be socially isolated. It would be very difficult. And we know that it can affect your mood and depression. We've actually seen a cognitive decline in people that are socially isolated. So what it means to be in a neighborhood where we have this cohesion and we're working together and we're doing things together really enhances our well-being. And then, of course, there are lots of planned social opportunities in a life plan community that anyone can take advantage of. It can be something planned, or it can be just that you are in, Vantage Point has a fantastic ground floor lobby. I feel like I've walked into a Starbucks or a Panera Bread, and you can't help but talk to somebody and grab a coffee or sit down and chat with somebody over a drink. So I think social wellness, this is one of the reasons that that people make a move. I spoke with my mom the other night asking her about the social distancing, and she said she and her neighbors had moved their chairs out into the cul-de-sac where they live, and they're drinking their wine 6 feet apart from each other. So I thought, well, she's still connected. That's fantastic. Emotional wellness, another key very tied in, very similar to the social one. I think what people experience when they move into a community like Vantage Point is the gift of time. If you are engaging in household chores or waiting for a repair or waiting for a repair person or a contractor, you can't do anything else. So yes, we talk about maintenance-free living. You won't have to maintain things. But I think even more important, because a community is maintaining things, you have the opportunity to do other things. It's stressful when something breaks. You don't know who to trust to fix it. You don't know who to call. You may have to wait a long time to get in touch with somebody. And we only have a finite amount of time. And quite frankly, I think we'd probably rather be doing socially engaging things or personal interests rather than the proverbial waiting for the cable guy. Eliminating the responsibilities of home upkeep and maintenance is one of the main drivers for people moving into a life plan community. And as you can see some examples here, the Residences at Vantage Point has a resident art show. And that's the photo on the page there. There's also a sense of community in the idea that someone else is looking out for you. So I think we don't like to be anonymous. Sometimes we think we've had enough of people and we do want to be a little hermit in our favorite chair. But it's also a nice feeling to know that someone's out there looking out for you. You may not be having to interact with them every day, all day, but you're not that lone person out there without some sort of connection. So emotional wellness, another thing that we saw improve for residents in a life plan community. I don't know how are you all exercising now? I'm hoping that you're still out walking. It's springtime and doing things. But this is critical for any person at any age. If you don't use it, you lose it. So we found that residents in a life plan community have better physical wellness. They have opportunities for different types of exercise. Vantage Point has a variety of things going on. And we know that if you're physically active, you can lower your incidence of chronic health conditions and how those health conditions affect your life. And generally, residents reported that they have very good diets. There's always the fun stuff, the cake and things like that. And chocolate is one of my, I consider chocolate part of a diet. So, but physical wellness and the opportunities to maintain your physical wellness, there's such a variety and people get involved. And as you can see from the picture here, that's probably a social interaction going on too, people outside. Intellectual wellness, I don't think we ever stop wanting to learn and to know things, and maybe now that we've got the time to learn something new. So residents living in a community felt like they were, their memories were good or very good. They had the opportunity to engage in intellectual pursuits, classes, learning things new, and that certainly contributes to maintaining your cognitive function. And you have an opportunity to, again, to interact with others. So here it all is. Let's talk through this chart a little bit, and then I'll talk about that the spiritual wellness thing. So if you look down at the bottom, the gray, that was where residents reported that it was somewhat or greatly reduced. Then the middle bars, the sort of peach colored, neither improved nor reduced. And the right, the darker orange, fits right in with the Vantage Point colors, somewhat or greatly improved. So for each of the parameters, residents, except for the spiritual one, residents felt that by living in a residents living in a life-playing community self-reported greater wellness in that area. So just looking at the first one, 49% of residents living in a life-playing community responded positively to emotional wellness versus 45% living in the community at large. And I should mention, Patty, I will make this presentation available. So if people wanted to see the results of this, certainly can make that available to you guys to share. Any question? I want to pause. I've given you a lot of information. Anybody have a burning question before I move on? Okay, let me explain the spiritual one, in that I think what the researchers were, and they're diving into this a little bit further, is that it wasn't that residents in a life-playing community didn't feel that they had good spiritual wellness. It was that it wasn't improved by living in a life-playing community.
Sharon.
Most people, yes.
I'm sorry, Sharon. I'm just unmuting the attendees so that if there is a question, we can pause now. Everybody was muted.
Everybody's muted. Okay. All right. I'll stop talking and let if anybody has a question, go ahead. Okay. All right. We'll keep going. So the spiritual one is that people typically, by the time they are 70 or older, have established a routine, whether that means they're part of an organized religion or they are doing their own spiritual practices, that it wasn't necessarily improved by moving to a community. So little explanation on that one. So when I said this was a game changer, and I always when I talk about moving to a community, and I talk to my parents about moving to a community, the time to do it is when you believe that there are things there that you want. Do you want greater wellness? Do you want more time? Do you want more opportunity? Do you want less maintenance? And now with information to show that it is different, I really believe we have a great story to tell. And what I say to people is, what are you waiting for? This is pretty good information that I think move yourselves forward. So I think I've presented a case as to why you should consider it. Let's talk about what some of the options are. And I put that big red line as I was running through this for myself this morning, and I've tried to challenge myself to take the word retirement out, which is very, very hard. Given the current climate, I'm not sure I'm going to reach that achievement called retirement. I'm the very end of the baby boomers. So pretty significant change right now in the last couple of weeks. But I think that I think that the word retirement still for a lot of people means I'm not doing anything. And for those of you that have visited Vantage Point or any other community, and I know Patty and Katie can attest to this, there are not many people not doing anything. There are a lot of things going on. We'll show you some pictures later here. The biggest difference when you look at communities where most people are over 70, it's financial. It's different amenities and stuff at most communities, but the big thing that separates them all are the different financial models. The two primary financial models that we're going to talk about today are a community where it's a rent. You're going to rent an apartment or rent a home, and it may be an age restriction. And then a life plan community, which has different contract types within it, which is what Residences of Vantage Point is. So a rental community does have typically a limited entrance fee or a community fee, but not an entry fee like the life plan, like the CCRCs. Fees are on a monthly lease program. They're typically like if we were going to go rent an apartment, you give the landlord 30 to 60-day notice, and your fees will stop and you can move out. If there is a healthcare component, it's fee for service, and that basically means you pay as you go. So you pay for what you need when you need it, which can be kind of costly, which is one of the, some people when they're looking at pros and cons, that's a con on the rental side. And another thing is residents come and go more often due to changing needs. I think there's less of a sense of community in some of the rental models, and Life Care Services manages both. I don't have there's something out there for everyone, but we do see that in a rental community, people, because there isn't as much of a commitment like a purchase or an entrance fee, that people do come and go more often. So, and that may or may not be important to you. In a life plan community, there's typically a one-time entrance fee and a monthly service fee. The entrance fee may be partially refundable, and the specifics of these, definitely, if you want more information, this is a reason to talk with Patty or Katie or Tina, because they're all different refundability options. And nursing care may be included in the monthly fee. What this means is if you need a higher level of care, your monthly fee does not change except to include some ancillary services like meals. So the fee that you pay on day one will follow you through all levels of living. Well, I should qualify that. There are annual increases like everywhere else. But that's a key thing that you would see in a contract. And again, the team at Vantage Point can certainly talk through the specifics. And the amount of the entrance fee and the amount of the monthly fee is based on the choice of residents. Of course, a larger apartment would have a larger fee than a smaller apartment, and the different contract types. So those are the two primary communities out there. rental options, and entrancy options, actually in the Maryland area, and even in DC too. The thing that I think things that are important to consider is, what do you want most in your future lifestyle? And the answer to that question is probably not that different if I asked you that question right now versus I asked you that question 20 years ago versus I answer you that question 20 years from now. We all know choices are important. And that means choices when it comes to, what do I want to eat? What kind of apartment do I want to live in, or home do I want to live in? I want flexibility, right? I come and go as I please. I eat at different times. Sometimes I don't eat at all. I want to have the flexibility to choose different activities and intellectual opportunities. So a lot of flexibility. I think we all like to have control, right? Many people told me that they felt if they were going to move to a community such as Vantage Point, they were giving up control, or giving up independence. And I actually think you're gaining all of those things. You now don't have control over when the gutter repair person is going to come, and so you are waiting. So the control and the independence, I actually think, is increased with residents. And then the key, and this is why a lot of people do consider making a move, is the access to health care and healthcare navigation, which is really important, navigating a very complicated system out there, whether it's assisted living or healthcare, our healthcare center. Having somebody help you navigate that world for yourself, for your spouse, is really, really critical. It gets more and more complicated. So I think when you're thinking about what is it, why would I want to make a move, and what would be important, yes, you need to look at contracts and decide what makes sense for you. But I think also think about what are my choices within each community and option? What kind of flexibility am I going to be offered? What kind of control? Are there controls that I don't want to participate in? I doubt it. And then that key thing is the access to health care. And then once you've narrowed it down to what those things are important to you, what do you want most in a community? Who manages it? And how long have they managed that community? Really, really important. Long-standing management company with staff tenure and longevity is really, really important, I think. Look at the financial stability. Communities can give you their disclosure statements. Actually, they're required to, so you can see those kinds of things. You can certainly get information about those. So I think that's if I'm sending you out shopping, these are the kinds of things you should be looking for. Is it an attractive physical environment? Are there quality amenities? Are there the amenities that you want? Do you see that I can be sort of, I don't want to use the word formal, but I have restaurant-style dining, or I can sit in a pub, or I can be downstairs in the Vantage Point version of Panera Bread and have a cup of coffee with a friend. So what kind of amenities are there, and are they the things that are important to you? Feeling safe and secure, and that means something different for everybody. But I think just as you want to now in the house or the apartment dwelling that you live in now, feel safe and secure, I think that's important to consider when you're considering a community like Vantage Point. And then that nursing care or higher levels of care, how do you pay for it? Is it included in the fee entirely? Is it included in the fee as a discount? That's the key thing, because, of course, if you need more help and more care, it does get more expensive. So how are you going to pay that? So what holds you back? You need to answer this for yourself, and maybe nothing's holding you back. This is the first step. You're listening and learning, which you should applaud yourself. Thank you. But what's the next step for you? Let's hear from some experts. We are. I can't see you if you raise your hand, but I'm guessing that you know somebody who lives at Vantage Point, or you know someone who knows someone, and you've heard about the community, or perhaps you've even visited it. But this is testimonials that we have from residents. I want to move when I can enjoy all that the community has to offer. You should definitely take a look at what happens every day and every week in any community that you're looking at. And are there things there that you think, yeah, I want to do that. I want to get involved. It's much easier to do that when you're healthy and can move around than when you might have some challenges. It helps you have predictable costs in the future. I want my children to care about me, not for me. This is such again, as I said to you, I'm the daughter of people who live in a life plan community, and I do care about my parents, but I am not worried. I'm getting updates from the community almost daily about what's going on now in these times, and I'm not worried. And we're the typical family where my parents are in one state, and the three of us children live in 3 different states, and we span the East Coast and West Coast. So really feel their safety and security is provided for. I can cook when I want to, not because I have to. I have never, and I'm going to guess that Patty and her team can say this too, I have never heard anyone say that their move to a life plan was not the right decision, and just as this couple is saying on the slide here, that they should have done it 5 years sooner. I wouldn't be still doing what I'm doing, and I'm validated every day that I get to interact with residents and why we do what we do and what it brings to the lives of the people that we serve. So I'm going to dive into Vantage Point now and some specifics about that community. But Patty, maybe we should unmute everybody and see if there are any questions before I go on.
Sure. And going back to they wish they'd done it 5 years sooner, the phrase that I hear a lot is better 5 years too soon than 5 minutes too late, so that you don't miss out. You don't miss out on the lifestyle and the friendships and all of the benefits. Okay, everyone should be unmuted from the presentation. If you've muted your phone and you have some comments or questions, you can unmute your phone and we should hear you. Okay, maybe we'll continue moving on. Were there any questions? Were there any questions at this point?
Okay, we'll keep going. So let's talk specifically about residents at Vantage Point. And this community, I've known it for the 9 years that I have been part of Life Care Services. It's been my hometown community, really. And enjoy being part of the team there. Vantage Point celebrates 30 years in Columbia this year. And if you haven't been in it, I think we finished our renovations now 2 years ago. If you haven't been in it in a while, it's a completely changed community from not only the apartment interiors, but the common spaces in the community are fantastic. So benefits of Vantage Point, I think number one is the location. Most people don't make a move far away from what they are familiar with. And Columbia is a great place. Vantage Point right there in the heart of everything just situates it perfectly. Managed by Life Care Services, just so that you know, Life Care Services, and you can certainly look us up too. We've been in business for almost 50 years. We manage 130 communities. Every day we are responsible for close to 35,000 lives with the residents who live in our communities. This past year we were very honored to receive the J.D. Power Award in customer satisfaction. So Vantage Point being part of that, and this was an independent survey, I'm sure you've heard of J.D. Power, and polling residents about their experience in their Life Lane community, and Life Care Services was number one. We have a 5-star rated health center, which means that this is the best of the best. And if you needed something, even rehab, you have hip surgery and need rehab, you need to stay in our health center for some time, it's 5 out of 5. And hands down, Heather and Marianne do a great job there. And then what I shared with you in the beginning of this presentation, the opportunity to age well, the opportunity to experience good or better social, emotional, intellectual, and physical wellness is, I think, hands down, one of the number one reasons to consider making a move. So, as I said, staying connected to Columbia, which is a great place, and location is the key. It's where most people start looking close to where they live, and I'm going to imagine that those of you on the phone here don't live that far away from where this sign is at the Columbia Town Center. The wellness, I call it a superstar fitness and exercise program, and as Patty said in the introduction, I'm a little bit of a fanatic about that, so it's an important thing for me, and something that I would look at. But the variety of classes and what goes on at Vantage Point are amazing. Vivian, who leads the efforts there in fitness, has been there for quite some time. She does an excellent job. There is a great fitness center with weights and equipment, and then a separate room for classes. And then you see this fellow here out riding his bike in Columbia. So
Sharon?
You're not that far away.
I'm sorry, Sharon.
Yeah.
Can I interrupt?
Absolutely.
I had gotten you're still on Benefits of Vantage Point slide on my screen.
Oh. Let's see if we can get it to. All right. Do you see the Columbia one now? This might be where it's slowing down a little bit.
Let me reclaim
Okay.
the center role. I will share my screen. My screen is being shared. Can you see my screen, Sharon?
No.
It hasn't switched over.
No. Let's see.
Well, let me pass it
Gosh,
back.
you almost made it through.
I know, we were so close. Oh, I think you need to join again.
Yeah. What happened there?
You dropped it said you dropped your internet connection.
Oh, okay. All right. So if you give it back to me, I should be all right.
Okay, you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so I will pass this back to you. And now we're back. Thank you all for your patience.
Thank
We
you
did
all. Sorry about that. All right. So you heard me talk about Columbia, and then I was talking about the awesome fitness program. So now you should see a fellow with a blue shirt on a bicycle.
Okay, good, yes.
Okay, all right, good. So again, the thing with the physical wellness is that there's a lot of great opportunities outside at Vantage Point, as well as what Vivian and her team do on the inside. And I'm not going to make this next statement just because I'm talking to you all, but I get the opportunity. I support with a team of people close to 30 different communities, and I'm telling you that the food at Vantage Point is in the top 2. And I, again, not saying that just because I'm on the phone with you all. Really an amazing food and beverage program at Vantage Point. Casual dining, as you can see there on the left, in the Grab and Go Cafe, where it might be just a sandwich and a drink that you want to pick up, to the chef-prepared meals that you could see this woman receiving there. And right behind that chef is a brick oven pizza, which is flatbreads that are absolutely amazing. So I encourage you all, if you haven't yet had an opportunity to have a meal at Vantage Point, it's great. The important thing here is that there is variety. Remember that slide about choice and flexibility, and that you can get delicious meals, healthy meals in a variety of spaces, or you can take it out from any one of the venues and have it in your apartment, have it on the balcony. So,
or
excellent.
in times just to make it relevant to today, we deliver meals to you at your apartment too.
That's right. I heard this morning someone was calling it knock and drop. So
knock and drop.
Knocking on the person's door and dropping the meals, which is what's happening for my parents too. So that's right. Thank you, Patty. The next slide is that. Think back to what I said about age well. The social interaction, the intellectual interaction and wellness, so important. Residents here in a class situation, and that's at Vantage Point. And then there is obviously a football game going on here with some people happy about the results and the woman in the purple shirt not so happy about the results. But this is in our pub, and residents getting to have a good time. So you can be stimulated socially with some wings and beer and a football game, or intellectually with a class. The next slide are these are new spaces, newly renovated spaces for us, but if you or your spouse needed more care as you age, there's Aspen Place and Monterey Place, which is memory care and assisted living. So that's available within the building, and and there's also obviously a health center that I talked about. Very important, I think, when you are considering making a move, that, again, no one ever wants to think that they're going to need it, but it's nice to know that it's there, and it's nice to know that it's new, it's well-run, and has a great program. So I would encourage you to take the next step. This is a great first step. Usually what I'd be saying here is call Patty or someone on her team and make an appointment to visit. But what I'm going to say now is call Patty or someone, Katie or Tina, and you're going to set up an appointment for a virtual visit. And this is, again, we're continuing to engage with people who want to consider a life plan community, but in the interest of keeping everybody safe and healthy, we're doing virtual visits. And so you are obviously techie people, so we're doing FaceTime appointments or Skype appointments so that you can chat through the contract options or actually see the model apartment. So take the next step, although you can't come in and see us, but you can certainly see us through one of those apps. We could have a conversation with you about your financial health and how do the numbers work, there's a great worksheet that, again, the team can walk through with you. And we can certainly make our contracts available so that you could study those. So those are some next steps that you could take. And hopefully we'll see some light at the end of the tunnel before the summer, and you can actually come and taste some of the delicious food or observe an exercise class or spend some time with people that you know that live at residence at Vantage Point. So I'm done talking. Patty, is there anything that you want to add or anything I left out?
Well, just we are here. We are available to answer questions. We are planning really for two more webinars, and we're planning for the financial considerations of retirement living seminar to be rescheduled. Our presenter wasn't going to be available to do it by webinar, but we are going to have more webinars. We're happy to take pictures of our community, send you video. We're working on additional videos that we're going to post on our website. I've taken the screen back, Sharon, because I did want to.
Okay.
See if there were any questions from our audience. You've been an excellent audience, and thank you for your patience while we worked through our very first webinar.
No questions?
Well, let's see if there's any questions, or if someone's trying to speak, I'm not. Everyone's unmuted, so unless you may have your phone itself muted. Well, what maybe we can do is we can do a follow-up. Oh, I see we've got a chat.
Oh, good.
How are we handling the pandemic? Well, we are following all of the CDC guidelines, the Maryland Health Department, as well as the Maryland requirements, and for not having visitation. We have no visitors, and we're screening all staff, residents, and other contractors that may be coming into the building, vendors, etc.
No.
So other than that, we are fully stocked. Our restaurants are serving. As I said, we're delivering meals. We are not holding group events for residents or for outside groups. Can residents leave the premises? Yes, although it's highly recommended they do stay within the community, but if they have medical appointments or other necessities, they can certainly leave the premises. We do advise people to stay in place as much as possible.
And Patty, that's the recommendation for the state of Maryland, right? For Maryland
Yes.
residents. Yeah.
Yes.
That's interesting. Really, no, not very appealing to speak into this.
There is a chat function, the second button from the left that looks like a little cartoon talk bubble, if you click on that on your screen, you may come up with a chat box where you can type in a message at the bottom of the chat box.
No.
I have a question about controlling staff from bringing in the virus. We certainly say if you have any symptoms of any kind of cold or regular flu, not to come into work. If you have traveled out of the country or you're in close contact with someone who's traveled out of the country, we ask that you self-quarantine and not come to work. We're asking residents to be screened for wellness upon entering the building, and certainly practicing hand hygiene, hand washing. We're sanitizing the building, going through all the high-touch areas frequently throughout the day, and being as cautious as we possibly can. You win, it makes you lucky. When you lose, but even assume that everyone on the station is winning their phone or not. Impossible. You must be mistaken. Wait a minute. You said there was an original machine? Yes, the smaller one. When I opened the club, I replicated the larger version. The larger version.
Well, I hope you, I'm going to, Patty, I'll make this, you've got this presentation, so if anybody has questions or wants any follow-up, we can also provide the AgeWell study. If you really wanted to dive into that in specifics, we can certainly send that along. If there are questions that you want to ask of me as a presenter, I'd be happy to interact with you. Patty can share my contact information, again, I want to say thank you for listening. I appreciate your attention, and hope that we've given you a little bit of information that will make you want to take the next step and engage with us in a virtual visit. We're having a lot of fun with these all over the country, so I encourage you to do that with someone on Patty's team.
And we'll certainly do that. We have our next webinar, Smart Sizing for Smart Living, which is a downsizing and real estate seminar, which I'm sure a lot of you are very interested in what's happening in the real estate world lately. Very exciting. So if you haven't signed up for that, you can go to our website and see the dates of the upcoming webinars. And I just want to leave you all with one last thought. The trouble with many plans is that they're based on the way things are now. To be successful, your personal plan must focus on what you want, not what you have. So I think that's a very good quote to end today's webinar with as you continue on your journey through the Compas Seminar and learning about what plan you want to make for your own individual selves. We will have the slides available if you would want them to follow up with. Just contact me or Katie or go through the website. And we certainly hope to see you all again for a future webinar. Thank you for your time this afternoon, and be well and stay safe, everyone.